This is Rob and Mike from the McClellan Financial Group of Asante Capital Management, and this is Think Smart with TMFG. Mike, it's nearing the end of 2019. I thought it might be an interesting idea to review some of the predictions that were supposed to happen in this year and just see how interesting some of them were. Interest rates were supposed to be higher. We were trending higher at the end of 2018. We were supposed to be in a recession, possibly a global recession. The stock market was going to continue to go down just like it started to at the end of 2018. We all figured Donald Trump would be gone by now. Justin Trudeau would probably not get reelected. We thought that Beyond Meat was actually going to replace all meat out in the marketplace. We thought that Canadians would be smoking lots of pot and driving those company valuations up. We thought that the Golden State Warriors were going to be world champions once again. It was predicted that Brexit would be resolved and wouldn't happen. Unemployment was supposed to start to rise again. And finally, Tiger Woods was predicted to never win another major golf tournament. He was too old.
So, Rob, with all these wonderful predictions we got out of all the papers last year, do you have any predictions for 2020?
You know, I've never been one big on predictions. I don't think a lot of time and energy should be wasted on it. But I've got a few that I think our audience might like. I think stock markets will continue to fluctuate. I think technology is going to continue to astound us. I think globally, people will still continue to dislike their leaders. People in Toronto, I still think the Leafs will win the Stanley Cup. Our Canadian government will continue to complicate our tax system. The debt and deficit of our country will continue to rise. The doomsayers will continue to predict that a major stock market correction and a deep, long-lasting recession is imminent. I also think the sun will continue to rise and fall every day, that we'll all continue to have good days and bad days. And finally, I think we'll all get a year older. So what do you think of those predictions?
I think they have a lot more chance of being accurate than the year before.
It is interesting how this whole discussion around predictions goes on. And what I always think is we're trying to predict the future based on what is going on today. So why doesn't that work?
Well, I think number one, people that are doing predictions are generally doing it to be read, not to be true, right? So they want people to pay attention to them. I was at a course yesterday where we were talking about this theory of abundance, right? And there's some people believe in abundance, that there's so much in the world can give to you at all times where you can keep on expanding. And most entrepreneurs and people who make a big difference in the world have this abundance mentality. There's other people with a scarcity mentality. Unfortunately, that's the majority of people, and they're looking for doom and gloom. And when these people make these predictions, they're trying to go and appeal to the mass majority of people, because that's going to get the most subscriptions, going to get the most people buying the newspaper or magazine or whatever it is. So they tend to tilt all these projections to the negative side of things. And we continue to see that. People like negativity because they buy into it a lot more easily than where things go in the future. You know, we look at things like Apple computers, how they've done. If Steve Jobs had a negative attitude, it wouldn't exist, and we'd still be back where we were 30 years ago. But there's incredible people like this that think ahead of that.
So how do you get a philosophy that allows you to get away from all these negative predictions about what may or may not happen and typically doesn't happen?
I think the best thing is not to worry about predictions. You know, what I always try to tell people is I find them entertaining too. I read the newspapers and I read magazine articles, but finding them entertainment and enjoying reading them and making financial decisions based on them are two totally different things. And you got to separate the two.
It's interesting, some of the predictions that I think are always interesting are weather predictions. So often we'll hear that a major storm is headed our way. And, it's all on the radar and they can spot this thing and it's going to hit us and it's going to hit us at this hour. And probably half the time, I don't know what the numbers are, but probably half the time, the storm never turns out to be as big as it was supposed to be. And then there's other times where it's supposed to be a small little, maybe an inch of snow and we get a foot.
Yeah.
How can they be that wrong when they've got all this good data?
Yeah, well, data changes. There's all different things that affect things. Some things are just very difficult to predict. You look at all the stuff that goes on in the economy. We're right now, as we're recording this, there's this whole Trump impeachment thing going on, right? Who knows what the outcome's going to be? We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what it was going to be about. People assumed something would go wrong. But they didn't have a clue if it was going to be legitimate, if it wasn't going to be legitimate, what effect the stock markets were going to have. Through this whole Trump situation, and not that I'm a Trump fan, but the expectation was the markets would fall apart. And we're 3 years into this, and we've had very strong markets along the way. And it's hard to explain why.
The U.S. economy is booming. Unemployment's the lowest it's been in 60 years. Interest rates are low. Things are pretty good down there. Most Americans are pretty happy. They're not happy with their leader, but they're happy with the results that have happened from having him at the helm.
And it may not even be, it may be due to previous governments or maybe due to anything. The economy is very different than the president, and people get mixed up, but they try to create that as one. As soon as one president's in charge, the economy's booming, that belongs to him and that's his thing. Generally, this stuff is created years and years previously. So there's a lot of stuff. The U.S. economy is almost like a freight liner in the ocean. And once it gets momentum, it's very tough to slow down. And there's a lot of momentum in it now. And that's what's been going on.
So I thought, I was thinking about a couple of clients this year, one that you have and one that I have, that had large sums of money to invest at the beginning of 2019 and decided to hold off. They were concerned that the stock market was overvalued because of some of the predictions that were coming out. And what it shows you is just how difficult it is. Both of them are business owners. Both of them had good prospects for their business, but didn't see good prospects for the businesses around the world. And I think, we always have to remember at the end of the day, human beings are on this earth consuming goods and services to live their life. And as long as that continues, businesses are going to continue to go up in value and make profits.
Yeah. When you do predictions, it's funny. You can make long-term predictions. In the future, there will be a recession.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. Do we know when it's going to happen? Not a clue.
Not a clue.
It could be next year. It could be 4 or 5 years from now. And this is where people make the mistake they try to decide we know what's going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen. Right. And they try to confuse the two because I can absolutely predict the market's going to go up over time. I can predict there's going to be recessions along the way. There's going to be fluctuations. As you said, those are legitimate predictions that will happen. But when you try to go and put a timeline on that, that's when the issues happen.
So unemployment's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It'll start to rise. Interest rates will probably start to rise at some point. Our debt or deficit is going to continue to rise. We're probably going to get new leaders. All those things are going to happen. You just don't know when.
Same as I can tell you there will be snow in the future. I get risky when I tell you it's going to snow tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is Rob and Mike with the McClellan Financial Group, and this is Think Smart with TMFG at Asante Capital Management.
You have been listening to the McClellan Financial Group of Asante Capital Management Limited. Asante Capital Management Limited is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. Insurance products and services are provided through Asante Estate and Insurance Services Incorporated. This material is provided for general information and is subject to change without notice. Every effort has been made to compile this material from reliable sources, however, no warranty can be made as to its accuracy or completeness. Before acting on any of the above, please make sure to see a professional advisor for individual financial advice based on your personal circumstances.